welcome to another episode of the Tyndale House podcast. Today I'm joined by, well, let's say nearly Dr. Petra Ratkovics from Hungary.
Yeah.
And you're nearly doctor because you are nearly submitting your PhD. And by the time people watch this or listen to this, you will have submitted and
just waiting for my execution.
Well, hopefully.
No, yeah. Thank you for premeditatively giving me the title.
That's a great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's about to be really close. I'm sending it to the supervisor. I'm sending it the finalized version, and then, God willing, the viva will be around November, and then I'll have those 2 letters.
Very good. Well, if this is going out after your viva and it's all done and dusted, we'll add something in the show notes so that people know that you're there.
Yeah.
So, Petra, tell us who you are in a little more detail and where you're from and those kinds of things.
Yeah. So I'm from Hungary. I've been studying theology for about 10 years. So I started after secondary school, high school, and did my master's in Hungary. Took 1 year to kind of work as a pastor and also prepare for further studies, and then continued on with a PhD in Hungary as well, which I started 5 years ago and hopefully finishing it very soon, or have already finished it. And I come from a very good cultural Christian family background, so not really believers, but always signed me up for religious school.
Right.
And kind of, it's a nice thing to you cannot learn bad things in the church kind of attitude.
Okay, yeah.
I took it a bit step further, which they still don't really understand, because apart from there not being believers, also no one else is in any close fields to humanities. Like everyone is the engineer, accountant, biologist, like everyone in the family. So it's a really interesting background, but I also got a lot of practice on defending why I'm doing this and what's the point of even doing it.
Yeah,
which is really, really nice. Just recently I had this discussion with my 13-year-old youngest brother who just on the internet found a lot of videos about the Bible, and he was like, what's the point of this? And can you tell me about that? And it was a really, really fun discussion. So
brilliant.
So yeah, that's the context.
So what made you go into theology then when you're from that kind of a background?
Yeah, so I was signed up for religious classes and took them. And during that time, I trying to phrase it in a way that's not really like cliched, but I mean, there's so many conversion stories. That's probably someone told it this way. But during that time, God really spoke to me, and I developed a relationship with Him, and I gave my life to Christ. And then as years went by, I don't know, I really enjoyed biology, so I thought to become a surgeon and be a doctor. But then it just I started to think about, but I'm really interested to know more about God. And, there's like other languages you can learn. And, there's Greek and Hebrew, and there's all the different additions that they give. And yeah, I just wanted to, let's know more about that. And let's deep dive. Dive deep into it.
Very good. So tell us about your PhD, what you're studying and why you're studying it.
Yeah. So my PhD is an odd one out. The title is, or the theme of it is, Jeremiah's influence on Paul's theology. So it's both Old and New Testament and neither, and kind of in between. I got this question all the time, if is it an Old or New Testament? And I never know how to answer it. Biblical studies. So it's all of the Bible, because all of the Bible is important. But that's one of the main points or main message, I don't know, of this work that I'm doing, which is, in my experience, in a lot of ways, we kind of separate parts from the Bible and pick them by themselves. And as I was reading through just parts of it, or just started thinking about it, or I've been doing it for a couple of years now, it's always so interesting to me to see how it all fits together and how it comes together, and how one part of the Bible supports another of it.
Right.
And if you see that, you can understand that more, and all these, how it really come together.
Yeah.
So that was one of the motivations and one of the reasons I dived into this project. And one of the things that I want people who are not necessarily deeply into the theological field, but just kind of believers and readers of the Bible, to take away from it.
Right.
That it's really, really good to see it together, and kind of not pick and choose, but also let God lead you and fit it together for you.
Yeah.
So I became interested in Jeremiah and was just reading, I think it was Walter Brueggemann's Theology of Jeremiah. And as I was reading it, he was talking about how in Jeremiah there's this interesting contrast when in some passages Jeremiah talks about how God is calling the people to repent and change their ways, and then God will bring them back.
Right.
And in other passages of Jeremiah, God is saying, you won't be able to do that. I'm going to have mercy on you, and I'm going to bring you back, and then you're going to change.
Yes.
And how this, which comes first and how it goes together, fits together in the book. And as I was reading it, I started thinking that this is very similar to the discussions we have about Paul and James of works and faith, and like what comes first. And it just, there's this kind of tying back to Paul. Let's think about, let's see if there's any other ways where maybe Jeremiah or any other Old Testament passage came and kind of affected Paul's thinking and developed his thoughts. And just now, if we as Christians who don't have that specific Jewish background that many people at that time had, look back on, we can kind of, enrich our own understanding.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I was about to ask why Jeremiah's influence on Paul, because that's not obvious at all. I don't think I've ever come across somebody reading Paul who says, "Oh, look at all the Jeremiah stuff here." But you actually came to it from the other way. You were looking at Jeremiah and saying, "Oh, we're seeing the same kind of thing again." And then are there other ways that works out? Is that right?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the other very important things that I took away from this journey, and I hope that others can take away as well. Is that we kind of hung up on this very modern idea of specific quotations. Like if you look at it in any field, if you look at a scientific journal or book or like an academic whatever publications, you're going to see quotations with very specific like quotation marks. Even if you change, if it's a capital or like a small n, you need to like add everything, and they just didn't have that concept in I guess 100 years ago even. I'm not talking about Paul. So when we kind of look into, when does Paul quote from the Old Testament, we kind of sometimes have this very constrained idea,
right?
And constrain ourselves. And I'm not arguing for let just anyone who thinks anything about anything in the Bible feel free, but have more of a I don't know, a more general overview of it, and a conceptual understanding. So just as an example, for anyone who's not a theologian, this is very similar to when I look at influence. I look at something very similar to when we pray. So when we pray, we use language that's influenced by the Bible. I usually don't quote the Bible in my prayers. I find it like, I don't know. If you do it, feel free. But it's just weird for me. But still, the phrases I use, the direction it goes, it just influenced by the Bible, and I cannot really pinpoint it. This is Isaiah 7:2, but it just there's this general conceptual influence. So if I go back and continue answering your question about the specifics, I'm looking at in the dissertation in 3 topics and themes. This first is the call and commission. What does it mean to be a servant of the Lord?
Right.
The Lord calls me. What does it mean for my life? How do I understand myself, my calling, my mission, my ministry, everything? And there's this one quotation that people generally think is a Jeremiah quotation, or like parts of it Jeremiah, in Galatians, when Paul talks about that God chose him before his mother's womb.
Right. Yes.
Which is a phrase that only comes up in Jeremiah.
Right.
And in the middle of Isaiah, but it's not about Isaiah, so no one really knows what to do with that, because it's not a call of Isaiah. So Isaiah didn't understand himself in those terms, but Jeremiah did.
Right.
And that was really interesting because he understood his life as being for ministry. So when his ministry was unsuccessful, he cursed his life. He didn't curse his ministry, because it was all like so tightly pulled together. And Paul was this, like, Paul understands his own life in the terms of his ministry.
Right.
So this is a very similar understanding. And also, being the servant of the Lord means that there's going to be opposition, that there's going to be fights and sufferings, and that again, just kind of this. Okay, this is what it is. It's not something that's abnormal.
Yes,
it's very much part of it. Kind of understanding.
Yeah. One of the things Jeremiah says about his ministry, Jeremiah 23, I think it is. He says about the true prophet stands in the counsel of the Lord.
Yeah.
Is there any? Do you see any connection between that and Paul's being caught up in his vision to the to this, the seventh heaven or whatever it is?
That's very interesting. I never thought about it. I use that Paul's vision for kind of underlying the boasting aspect, because it's much more in that concept when Paul talks about it, which is again a term comes from Jeremiah, so Jeremiah 9, and that's one passage that's quoted by Paul 2 times. That's the only that quoted 2 times. So I'm happy to take that for the Jeremiah side. Yeah, that's an interesting addition to think about. Regarding authority, I'm much more looked into how Paul fights for his authority, fights against false prophets and false apostles in his own concept, in his own context. So that was much more what I looked into.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one strand.
That's one strand.
What are the other 2?
The second is it starts from the New Covenant, which is, everyone agrees, comes from Jeremiah. He's the only one who uses that term, even though that type of new eternal covenant is everywhere in the Old Testament.
Sure.
But also from that new covenant, how it ties back together to the boasting, which I was mentioning earlier. So Jeremiah 9, there's this interesting passage when Jeremiah, when the prophecy says that the Lord says, "Let the wise not boast in his wisdom, let the mighty not boast in his strength, and let the rich not boast in his richness. But those who boast that they know me, the Lord, who does covenant faithfulness, justice, and righteousness in the earth." And this is very interesting because all throughout Jeremiah, there's this image of Jeremiah looking for wisdom and couldn't find any, and everyone is a fool. The leaders of the nations are fool, and the people are foolish, and they don't know the Lord. And this phrase of knowing the Lord comes up again and again, and it culminates with Jeremiah 31, the promise of the new covenant, when the people will know the Lord, who in that new covenant will give covenant faithfulness, will give justice because he will be just, and also give the righteousness and give salvation. So basically the only true way of boasting is through the knowledge of the Lord. So kind of how it ties back together, okay, the only place we can go is the Lord. Everything depends on him. Everything is on his mercy. So Paul uses obviously New Covenant, and kind of has this idea of, okay, New Covenant is Christ. But boasting, that term Paul uses about like 50 something times, or like it's like a very high number, depending on if you look at the verb or the noun or the combination of both. and it's just such an interesting thing that when Paul talks about it, he goes on and on about, okay, but those false apostles boast in their own work, but I will boast everything that the Lord is. I don't have anything to boast in because I was called, because everything depends on the Lord. Even my calling depends on the Lord. His gospel depends on him. His everything is because of his mercy.
Yeah.
If I boast, I'm going to boast in my weaknesses.
Right.
Because then the Lord can go even greater.
Sure.
So that's just such a great aspect of the new covenant that doesn't really come up in my readings. I didn't really see much when the boasting and kind of this phrase and this attitude was tied so closely to the new covenant idea in Paul. And I just really enjoy finding those connections. So that's another. And
I love that.
Yeah, and the third one flows from it, which is, okay, you have this new covenant, you have these people who now rely on only the Lord because nothing else is there. There's no wisdom in that. And then where is the Lord now? Where the Lord's presence in the new covenant community is the third idea, which is in the Old Testament, outside of Jeremiah and everywhere in the ancient Near East, the temple is the place where the Lord is.
Yep.
And then in Jeremiah, there's this complete dismissal of the temple. There's just nothing. Jeremiah talks about it 2 times at the temple. Just forget the temple, basically, and then just doesn't mention it anymore.
Right.
But there's interesting phrase, again, back in his calling, when the Lord says to Jeremiah that his job will be to tear down and to build up.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the verses, when building up comes up later in Jeremiah, it always the Lord who does the building up. So who's going to be building? I mean, tearing down is obvious.
Yeah.
All of Jerusalem, all of Israel was teared down. But building up will be done by the Lord, who will build up his people and will live among them and will live in their midst. And in this sense, the people will be the Lord's temple.
Right.
And that's just a very, very easy connection to Paul,
isn't it? Yeah.
Who uses that phrase so many times. Another Paul uses that phrase in Corinthians and in Ephesians very strongly. That image, and sometimes that image is tied together with the field in Corinthians, you're God's field.
Yes.
So there's this image of planting, which is the planting and building up in Jeremiah.
Yep.
So that's the only way when those two tied really close together, and it just tied together back in Paul. And again, so the point of the dissertation is not to say that, oh, you fools, how could you not see Jeremiah? And you couldn't have understood Paul before me because I'm going to bring such new things. It's not even close. It just adds a new level to it, or it highlights some things that were there, and like great, brilliant people have discovered millions of things about the Bible I could never have. But it's another layer of it, or another aspect of it, while still keeping all of the great scholarship and all of the great discoveries and other Old Testament connections. Like, I was referring sometimes to other Old Testament verses. I could have gone on and on about Paul using other passages from the Old Testament outside of Jeremiah, even in these topics as well. But these are just some addendums and kind of ideas.
Brilliant. What were some of the big aha moments, the big insights, or the big surprises along the way?
So the boast thing, that thing itself was one of the biggest things. And I was really like, oh gosh, that's great. Because it started with only the New Covenant. So it started with just the New Covenant. And there's this book by Femi Adeyemi called the New Covenant Torah and the Law of Christ and Paul,
right,
where he kind of equates the two.
Okay.
So I was approaching the New Covenant discussion with that. Okay, let's see what the law what the law plays
Yes.
role, what role it plays in this whole discussion. And then I discovered that, I mean, to my understanding, was like, okay, I mean, yeah, I guess you can argue for that, but I just didn't really see many of the connections that
Right.
he was making. But I found another, so that was a great one. And let's see. Oh, there was just as a general, really fun discovery for me was looking at the differences between the Greek text of Jeremiah and the Hebrew text.
Okay.
And how there's
significant differences.
Yeah, there's
between
significant differences, yes. But also there's just sometimes it's so fun to see the addendums, and just now we even looked at some of the Targum, so even later editions, and how they understood it. So there's this about the Lord's presence topic. There's this passage in Jeremiah 3 when the Lord talks about how the Ark of the Covenant will not be mentioned and will not be made again, and then there will be no need for it. People will not remember it because He Himself will be in the midst of the people. And the Targum just adds that it will not be moved and it will not be taken into war, but I mean, it will be still there. They couldn't really get the concept. And there's another passage when in the Hebrew text, there's this judgment on how the Babylonians will come and bring all the equipment from the Lord's house. I don't know the precise English word for it, but all the cups and everything. Yes. And it says that, and it will be in a faraway land or in Babylon.
Right.
And then the Greek text adds, until the point when they come back, when they bring back. So you kind of like has this, okay, but it will be there. It will be there. So it's just such interesting, especially regarding that whole temple discussion and whole, okay, how will the Lord's presence be approachable? How will He be here in the restoration? That really changed depending on which text you see. That was a really interesting kind of thing to wrestle with and figure out, okay, let's see what we're dealing with and what were people's expectations and how they understood it.
That's fantastic. So how do you see this work helping you've hinted at this already, but how do you see this work helping the church? It seems to me that you have in your head, this is not simply an academic piece of work. Your heart is for this to be helpful. So unpack that for us a little.
Yeah, I like talking about it. And as I said, in my life, the people surrounding me usually don't have any degree in theology. Right. So I just get used to talking about it in terms and in goals in mind that they understand. So yeah, I guess my hope is that generally it will have this helpful drive to get people to look for connections or not to have such a dividing view of the Bible, or to kind of even see that the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament are not different things, which is, I think, one of the big mainstream ideas now.
Right.
Again, it's been going on for so long. I mean, 4th century and even before. So there's nothing new under the sun. But it's just, it could give people the encouragement to see that, okay, I can look at the Old Testament as well, and I can see things in that's really relevant for my Christian life now.
Yeah.
And maybe see that there's this really, really great graphic about the interconnections, literary connections within the Bible. Right. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. That really,
with all the many arcs.
Yeah, it's amazing, and just kind of have have that idea and just kind of see that, oh yeah, it really is. There's a lot of connections, and it all comes together, and it's talking about the same things, it's just different times to different people with different backgrounds.
Yeah. So will you write a popular level book based on your thesis?
Yeah. I would like to. That would be really something that I would enjoy, I think, doing, and hopefully would be helpful as well, just for my own enjoyment.
Brilliant. So when you've sorted out all of the complicated forms that you were telling me about just now, and you've got your viva and everything's all done, what happens next?
So currently I have an agreement with one of the theological institutions back in Hungary that I could possibly work there as or teach there a couple of classes from February. So I'm going to see how it goes. September, I'm going to get to know them for one semester, and then if it all goes well, I could teach there. That would be wonderful. I'm also working on a YouTube channel in Hungarian.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's going to be in Hungarian with English subtitles.
Thank you. My Hungarian is really quite limited.
I mean, how dare you? Sorry. But
it's hard.
I know. I mean, 3-year-olds can speak it.
Okay, well, that's a fair comment. Yeah. All right.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. I know. But so my thinking was there are already so many resources available in English.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Hungarian, there's a bigger need.
There absolutely is. Yeah.
It's just kind of talking about biblical theological questions on a popular level with relevant scholarship behind it. So let's not use the Da Vinci Code as our best resource for canon criticism, please. So if someone came up to me today in the streets in Hungary and asked me, what's like really quick, easily digestible resource I could recommend to know more about why their Catholic Bible and why my Protestant Bible are different, what would I recommend? I wouldn't really know what to say, because anything I would say would be 100+ pages for theological academic consumption. So that's kind of the goal to go into that gap and fill it. And I'm also currently involved in a project with a Hungarian publisher that there's a really, really great English book that I found a year ago maybe, called Biblical Critical Theory, that talks about that talks about how Korean society can be understood through the lens of the Bible. So that publisher is translating it, and I'm editing and kind of looking through that. So that's going to be in the works sometimes, and just kind of, again, making it available to Hungarians and kind of, educating the people there to think of theology as something that's like a serious field that you can study. There's arguments, there's books, there's an academic background, and I don't mean any like bad about my parents, but one of them is an engineer and another is an accountant, and when we have discussions about the Bible, they hold their opinions to the same strength than mine, who's been studying it for 10 years. And I don't have anything, like, I really love them and they have great ideas and they're really, really smart people. It's just like, I may have read more about it, and that may have some influence. So let's deal with this as another serious field of study. So yeah, kind of that's the direction that I plan to go and kind of strengthen.
Fantastic. No, it was great to talk to you, Petra, and I think this is a wonderful project. I love what you've been working on, and I mean, the clarity of the ideas now. Well, obviously you're just submitting, but compared to our last conversation a couple of years ago, is great. So yeah, lots of things for me to go away and dig into. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you for joining us, and do join us again on the Tyndale House podcast. There are more interviews with scholars who come and work here at Tyndale House, some for short periods of time, some for long. We have more series coming out, various things in the works, so keep an eye on the channel. Do subscribe either at Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube. Rate and review us, because that helps other people to get to know about us. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.